Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to the Beyond Bitcoin show. Today is August the 31st. Wow, 2019. Strong hand, unconfiscatable. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Personal responsibility is a new counterculture. Deferral of gratification, conviction, golden age, strive for greatness, ambition, avoid mediocrity. Okay, yeah, so I'm live. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's This Week in Bitcoin show. It was a blast. Ansel Lindner was on. You all should know who that dude is, so go check it out. techbalt.com, techbalt.com, disruptmeister.com, all my old shows, 1,400 old shows. Today's show, of course, is Beyond Bitcoin, so we're going to talk about subject matters that go way beyond. If you've got questions, send a super chat. I'll hopefully get to your questions. So let's talk about short-term thinking, impulsive solutions when it comes to America and all that political waste of time. We hear a lot of the short-term impulsive solutions. But Dan Crenshaw, who's a representative from Texas, he just smacked it all down because he's a long-term thinker. He says abolishing the Electoral College means that politicians will only campaign in and listen to urban areas. That is not a representative that is not a representative democracy. We live in a republic, which means 51% of the population doesn't get to boss around the other 49%. And that is what people forget, that this is not a democracy. And democracy, just because it's a nice, pretty word that people paint flowers around, it is nasty. It can be nasty. 51% can steal from 49% of the people. And Dan Crenshaw knows that's not the way that you run a country. And that's not the way this country was meant to be. So there's all sorts of people that like saying, people don't understand what a democracy is. No, people understand what a democracy is. And the United States is not a democracy. And the United States should be proud of it. And I'm glad to hear Dan Crenshaw laying the smackdown there and reminding everyone that we shouldn't, just because people don't like the way things are going, doesn't mean you impulsively change everything, okay? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if you think it's broke just because you're not getting your way, just because you're a little kid, be patient. Because in the long run, you don't know when you're going to be the minority and when the majority can boss you around and steal from you. You don't want to. That is not freedom. That is not freedom when a majority can steal from a minority. All right. So moving on, there is a website, Cool Word, and again, this is all linked to below. That was a great tweet by Dan Crenshaw. Simple and to the point. He's the guy with the eye patch. If you see, pound that like button for that eye patch. All right, let me check something right here. Oh yeah, so Cool Worlds. Have you heard of that YouTube channel? It is a YouTube channel about space. A really smart guy, who's, I forgot where he's a professor at. I think he's Australian. I hope he's in Australia, but he's based in America. The point is, his site deals with exomoons a lot, but he deals, I know, exomoons. I'd be so cool. But he also, in a video that I linked to below, he talks about a subject matter, using Jupiter as an antenna to send back videos from satellites, okay? He develops practical concepts where you will be able to use the Earth as a telescope, where you're going to be able to use Jupiter as an antenna to send back things that can be done right now that could be so cool. And he's just in motion coming up with these ideas. And you can understand them. Even if you don't like space, you can understand this. I like this. I like this kind of thing. It isn't the government solving people's problems. It's an independent dude coming up with ideas that are smart and are reasonable and are practical. So check him out. I enjoy that channel a lot. People ask, what kind of stuff do you look at when you're not looking at Bitcoin? Well, there you go. Cool Worlds, linked to below. Now here's someone who's in motion, who's a stoic emperor, says, some people spend their whole lives waiting for the sound of a starting gun that never goes off. Don't wait. Pull the trigger yourself. I like that attitude, man. You don't wait around for that starting gun. Don't wait for someone to tell you, yeah, now's the time to start your life. Now's the time to live your dream. No, you got to do that. You pulled the trigger on your own starting gun in your own race, and you start it now, man. Now's the best time to get going and be in motion. You don't need anyone's permission to be an entrepreneur, to change your life, to start again. It's up to you. You've got that power. Independent thinker. You don't need to be part of a mob. Collectivism is the default. Individualism is the accomplishment. All right. By the way, Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy who's got videos out there that deal with all sorts of current events. I will say this. He agrees with my terminology. One of my sayings, always be learning. Always be learning. And always improve your talent stack, as he would say. You become a better person, more well-rounded. You're able to start a new life if you need to. And that's why you should always be learning. And just increasing knowledge, to me, it gets me going. It gives me a buzz. And I think that definitely makes a person more independent. And the more things you know, the less questions you have to ask, and less you don't have to be reliant on other people who know. You learn it for yourself. Don't be reliant on someone else to take care of your issue for you. Okay, moving on. Penn Jillette. I saw him on Joe Rogan's show the other day, and I didn't link to that one below, but you can find it. And he said, he was talking about the danger of associating yourself too much, making everything a team sport. I've mentioned this before, but I just wanted to point out he was on the same page as me. It definitely leads to envy, and it's a waste of your time if you get too much into making every single aspect of your life like Democrats versus Republicans, putting yourself on the team, us versus them. Be an independent person. Make your own decisions. You don't have to, the rock people versus the rap people. You don't have to get into these petty disagreements because your team doesn't agree with the other team, okay? Solve your own problems. Don't get into these gigantic group arguments. It's a total waste of time. And again, you will find yourself sometimes aligning yourself with the group and getting into bigger issues. But again, try to avoid. There are dangers to these making everything a team sport. It can really waste your time. All right, now teach your children well. How about that? For what we're about to talk about, we're going to talk about this fentanyl issue that so many people are talking about. That this terrible drug called fentanyl is produced in China, and a lot of it is brought into the United States. Now it's an opioid, and a lot of people end up using it because they're using other drugs like heroin or coke even sometimes, and they're already drug addicts. Now again, fentanyl has a real purpose. Okay, it is a prescription medication for people that are in pain. I mean, it does serve a real purpose for people who are really sick. So with all of this in mind, okay, talking about team sports, China versus the United States, as an individual, you cannot become a drug addict. You got to teach your kids the horrors of heroin and hardcore drugs. Because once you become a hardcore drug addict, at this point, you might get slipped some of this fentanyl in there, okay? And it could kill you. It's incredibly potent. But personal responsibility is the new counterculture here. And a lot of people aren't going to like to hear this. But it's not China's fault when a drug addict ODs on fentanyl. I mean, they've already taken some steps in their lives where they become heroin addicts or where they become coke addicts. And when they need it every day and they got themselves a bad batch that had some fentanyl mixed into it, okay? Now, so children, everything in a child's life, the They're very precious and impressionable when they're youth. They need parents that care for them. You can't, if you're not ready to have a kid, don't have a kid. If you're a single person, don't have a kid, okay? They need two parents. And when you start saying, well, this is just as good, this is second best. If you're second best raising your kid, the likelihood that they're going to get into trouble, that they're going to get into drugs, increases. If they get into drugs, there's a chance they're going to become drug addicts. Once they're a drug addict, they get into this stuff, and it leads to a really nasty situation. So we have people out there. So here we go. Someone says, fentanyl is an incredibly potent drug. A few dozen people with backpacks full could supply all of the opiate addicts in the U.S. for months. Claiming that China could stop or even slow down that flow, even if it dedicated every single resource they possessed to the job, is simply ludicrous. Now, someone else says, people point out, they think that China is trying to kill Americans, that this is a master plan. Again, this is team sports. China wants to defeat Americans by sending fentanyl over to kill Americans, okay? Let's logically think about that for a second. If that was what China was trying to do, if they're trying to send lots of fentanyl over here to kill Americans and to weaken America that way, does that weaken America if a bunch of drug addicts all of a sudden OD in America? Does that weaken America? I mean, it's a sick thought. I mean, but I'm just trying to break this down to the people that think that China is trying to this is some master plan to destroy America. They're letting their people sell. They're all into making money, okay? They're into making money. They're selling this drug. Sometimes it has a legitimate purpose, okay, for painkilling and everything. This is not a master plan. If your theory about this being a master plan, that China is trying to kill all of America's drug addicts, that doesn't hurt America. If all of a sudden all the drug addicts in America died, I know it sounds pretty brutal, but America would be stronger. I mean, that's just a fact. And so that's not the reason this is being allowed to happen, okay? It's financial. It is a financial situation over there. But again, it comes down to there's demand. There's a demand for it in America. Personal responsibility allows people to say no, we're not going to have a demand for this. We're going to watch after our kids. If we are drug addicts, we're going to seek help here. We're going to not get in. We're going to cut the heroin out. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard if you're a drug addict already. That's why you got to raise your kids right. That's why if you've got a friend and it's a loved one, try to intervene and try to. But no, there's a lot of people saying that the Chinese are killing Americans. It's Americans that are killing Americans. It's drug addicts. I mean, this is something. When you're a drug addict, this is a risk you take. When you get into drugs, this is a risk you take. And I know it is horrible to lose. Obviously, it's horrifying to lose a child to a situation like this. But the Chinese didn't make your kid become a heroin addict, and that's it's brutal. It is brutal. But personal responsibility is it can appear to be brutal. But if you have that independence, if you really control your own life, you won't end up blaming people for problems. It's a good feeling to take personal responsibility. You have less problems when you do take personal responsibility over your life. So again, it's this fentanyl thing. A lot of people have come up with conspiracies and whatnot about it. It boils down to some personal responsibility there. Let's raise your kids right. If you're not ready to have kids, don't have kids yet. Okay, look after your own. All right. What's this all here? And here, this is the brutality. I mean, this sounds brutal. I'm abusing that word now. But and this is another thing with Americans that has led people down to being a drug addict. People are sad. People are down. People are down, and they think a magic pill is going to solve everything. Life is not that simple. A magic pill is not going to save everything. If you've got that mentality, you're going to end up in these situations where you get hooked, where you think you need outside help, where you think you need magical pills. You got to solve. Magical pills don't solve a darn thing. Okay, they send you down a spiral of destruction here. And we are living in a time. And so I linked to an article below. With 5% of the world's total population, the U.S. consumes 80% of the global opioid medication. Spokesperson Geng Shuang told reporters on August 29th, if the U.S. really wants to solve its fentanyl problem, it should put its own house in order. Well, boiling that down to the next level, you've got to put your own house in order, okay? The United States doesn't need to put its own house in order, okay? The United States is an abstract concept, all right? The individuals within the United States have to put they have to put everything in perspective. Life is great. What a golden age. You have access to credit, to luxury vehicles, to so much stuff. Life is great. You don't need to get into these drugs. You don't need to dull the pain with a magic pill. There is no pain. Life is beautiful. All right. So here is a tweet by Dan Held. All right. He says, what does Dan Held here say? Whenever someone starts talking about fair competition, or indeed about fairness in general, it's time to keep a sharp eye on your wallet, for it is about to be picked. Murray N. Rothbard said that. Yeah. So yeah, be careful of the politicians preaching fairness, or anyone coming up with a plan. Well, it would be fair if the rich gave to the poor, if we made the rich. No, they're about to steal from you. So good reminder there by the deceased Murray Rothbard. But Dan Held shared that tweet. Now, I will have to say this. People that envy is not healthy. Envy is not healthy. So those with a lot of envy, they're going to have some health issues, okay? Mental health issues, physical health issues, if you are jealous. And so in the modern world, where we have this income inequality, in the United States, there is income inequality. Yes, there is. And I've said it doesn't matter. It should not matter to people. But in this society, and the United States has more income inequality than a lot of other Western countries, we're more free than a lot of other Western countries. But the people value their wealth in stuff, okay? And so in this situation where people are valuing their wealth in stuff and they don't think they have enough, they then become envious of other people. And that does get them sicker. So people have pointed out, in countries with high levels of income inequality, you do have more health problems. There are more mental health problems. That is not the income inequality's fault. That is the fault of the people who are envious. They need to understand there's no reason to be envious of Bill Gates. There's no reason to be envious of a millionaire. You put your own house in order. You can be successful. Because envy is only going to get you sick. It's only going to get you ill. And you're not going to be able to progress or anything. Worry about your own self. Do not worry about income inequality. It is not the problem. It is not a problem at all. Again, that we have such high income people, they have produced so much for the world and so much comfort in the United States, such a golden age, that in countries, free countries like the United States with income inequality, there's just you can get so much stuff. You can live so comfortably, and it is thanks to the wealthy people. So don't be jealous of them. Try to understand the situation. Try to better yourself. Don't get obsessed with envy, okay? And so then you will not care about income inequality, and you will be a healthier person, and you will be in motion. Now, did I get everything in? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so yeah, the people who are envious do not understand what is making them more envious. That it is their obsession with stuff, that they're measuring their wealth in stuff. If they can just break it down and say, you know what, my happiness does not equal stuff. Luxury vehicles, that does not equal happiness. They'd be better off psychologically. Okay. Plenty of. Oh yeah, I just combined two things here. So content overlooks. This is so funny. It exemplifies my own how I pay attention, how I learn on the internet. As many of you know, I watch the Ben Shapiro show like every day at 2x speed, of course. But when I say watch, I never see it at all. For a second, I saw him the other day, and I saw he had the kippah on his head. He had the yarmulke on his head. And I totally forgotten that he wore a yarmulke. Totally forgot. I totally forgot about it until I saw it again. And that is how often I look at the screen when I am taking in YouTube videos. And it is unfortunate. There's so many other people who can tell you the color of his yarmulke. They can tell you so many things about the way people look on the web. They can tell me about my hairstyle the other day or whatever. It is content overlooks, and that's how I take in the Ben Shapiro show. I'm getting information. I don't care what the heck Ben Shapiro looks like at all. I don't even know what the heck Ben Shapiro looks like. That is my point there. So and if you're a podcast person, then yeah, you're just listening, and that's great. And you can get these shows in podcast form at sportsmeister.com. Pound that like button. So what I wanted to say, if you watch. That's the old way of watching TV. People used to watch TV, and it was mind-numbing. They're looking at the pictures. They're looking at the fancy sets and graphics. So I'm going to tell you this. If you're taking in the internet the same way that you're watching TV, it's not going to end up much different for you, okay? Your life's not going to end up much different than if you were just plopped in front of a TV watching some sitcom. If you're taking in the internet that same way, just like, ooh, oh, look at his yarmulke, look at his hair, look at his... If that's what you're getting out of all this, you might as well just watch TV. You might as well watch repeats of Cheers or The Cosby Show or whatever is on cable. I don't know what the heck's on cable. Might as well just do that instead of getting the internet. The internet provides a learning opportunity for people. And if you're going to treat it like TV, if you're going to have that TV mindset, you're not going to learn a darn thing. Pound that like button. Okay, so yeah, we do live in a golden age where people supposedly... that people in the low brackets, okay, they in a income inequality country, in this golden age, they can have luxury vehicles, and they don't understand that desire for luxury vehicles, getting into debt, that is just making them slaves, and that is just putting more pressure. The more they care about it, the more pressure they get. But they do have that. If they had the mindset where they were like, okay, I am not getting any wealth by getting these luxury vehicles. Let me get some wealth here, but then I can still get the luxury vehicle, and my happiness is going to go up. I'm going to save. I'm going to have long-term thinking. I'm going to accumulate real assets. They'll break out of that vicious cycle of just like, I'm jealous, I need to get more stuff. I'm jealous, I need to get more stuff. Because it's just a never-ending spiral, and they will never get out of the jealousy. They will just end up with more and more debt, more and more stuff, more and more stress, more and more sickness. So yeah, I combined a few things in that other thing I said. All right, moving on. Who's this? G Singh. Have to believe, this is a good tweet, have to believe your greatest work is still yet to come. Otherwise, what's the point? I think it's a great attitude there. Yeah, you always got to be thinking like, my best is yet to come. Tomorrow is going to be a better day. Tomorrow I'll be able to do more work. Tomorrow I'm going to make a better video. Tomorrow I'm going to run even more. Tomorrow will be better. Always aim high and keep on doing it. Keep on competing against yourself, beating yourself. If not, I'm just, life isn't getting any better. Things aren't getting any better. But then what's the point? What's the point, man? I think you should. That's the beauty of life. Every day can be better. Everything can be better. Constantly getting better for you. Constantly being better. If you're using your brain, if you're in motion. So I like that attitude. I like that tweet. And again, sometimes you don't accomplish what you had to do that day. Maybe it wasn't a good day. But yeah, there's another day ahead of you. You can do it. Just use that brain. Rely on yourself. Don't depend on other people to solve your problems. If you get stuck in that situation, it won't be a better day. Yaron Brook was on the Ben Shapiro Sunday special talking about Ben Shapiro. I linked to it below. And you know what? I've been loving Yaron Brook lately. And one of the things I gained from him, and I think he said something like this: inequality is a feature It's a feature. It isn't a bug at all. Inequality isn't. It would be boring if everyone was equal. If everyone was equal, that would be boring. What would be created? There'd be nothing new. Everyone would do the same thing. It would be terrible. That we had people that can specialize in certain fields and can be completely better than so many other people and produce so much that others who could never dream of producing that much could benefit from. It's a feature. It's a feature to the way things work. So again, in the income inequality, you see people doing better in sports. You see people doing better in all sorts of fields. That's great. That's great. You find a place where you're unequal, where you're better than everyone else. I mean, it's inspirational for me. I think it's inspirational for Yaron Brook to see these people with so much success out there being shown to the world in the terms of income inequality. All right, let's see. We got Zach Bandera, I see, said something. Oh, it's about 22 years old. I got but. Okay, yeah, I can't really say it. You said a word there. I'm not going to say that word. But then it wasn't a question anyway. So anyone with a question, you do the super chat, I answer your question. Zach, thanks for the comment. All right. And remember, all my links are below. Follow me on Twitter, TECHBALT. Moving on. What is this I have written down here? Sacrifice sickness. Yeah, it is a sickness. Sacrifice is a sickness. To sacrifice for others. To sacrifice for others that you do not know. Do you feel the need to sacrifice for others? You're guilted into sacrificing for others that you don't know? It's a sickness. It's a sickness that infects so many people. They think that is the ultimate, to base their life around, to be Mother Teresa or something, to live for others. You got to live for yourself first, okay? You got to take care of your own business, baby. Because if you think that it's all about sacrificing for others, then you're going to think someone's got to sacrifice for you. And you're going to think it's totally valid that rich person sacrificed for you, that you steal from that rich person. And that isn't valid. That is totally wrong. That's why you can't base it on that. So people that need to have a non-guilt foundation where they understand they don't need to sacrifice. And it's an important core belief. And this is easy to explain to people too. Because a lot of people don't understand economics. You break it down that way, they will get it. Some people will get it. All right. And speaking of golden age, we got CNB. We were speaking of golden age beforehand. CNBC article here, and this just shows what a world we live in. The Qantas hopes to have a New York to Sydney and a London to Sydney direct flights up and running by 2022. Those would be 19-hour flights, okay? Right now, their Qantas is testing 19-hour flights. And that is just what a world we live in, that we'll soon be able to travel. If you're in New York or if you're in London, you'll be able to take a direct flight to Sydney, Australia. Pound that freaking like button. You should be thanking the Lord you're alive. All right. Let's skip that. What do we have? James Clear. Oh, no. Competition. Only competition that a lot of people are getting these days, because there's a lot of people, they work for the government. There's no competition there. There's a lot of people involved. They're just walking through their lives, working at jobs where they're just mindless zombies. There is no competition. They're just satisfied with themselves. And so a lot of people, the only way they get competition these days is through social media zingers. And the trolling and stuff, it's not very productive at all. I mean, so you could say, yeah, I won that battle. I had a social media zinger on Twitter or on YouTube in the comments section. That's not real competition, dude. That's just you being a troll. And again, I mean, you're trying to compensate for being unsuccessful. But what you've got to do is compete against yourself. Competition does get the blood going. It gets you going there. So compete against yourself. Be better than you were the other day. So a lot of people say, well, no, it's a trolling or whatever, ripping on people on social media. I beat them. That's competition. I don't know, it makes me feel good. Nah, dude, it's a little hit. It's not productive. What are you producing there by zinging somebody on social media? So be a better person than you were the other day. Come up with new ideas. Compete against your old self. Be wealthier than your old self. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can measure it. Be happier than your old self. competition. It gets you going. Now, again, if you're in the workplace, if you're working for a corporation or if you're an entrepreneur, you are competing very nicely there. You're trying to make the best freaking product out there. You're making the product that most people are going to buy. So you're competing against your competitors who are also trying to do the same exact thing you're doing. There's a lot of spaces. Some spaces are more crowded than other. That's great. So there are people that do that still, but we are living in a world today of abundance where a lot of people aren't involved in endeavors like that. So they take it out in social media. And again, do you have to work in a competitive environment? You don't necessarily have to work in a competitive environment. If not, compete against yourself. Make yourself a better person. It gets you going. It can make you a stronger. It makes you a more independent person. Competition does sometimes. And there are definitely healthy forms of competition, and there's some sickening forms of competition also. Alrighty. The social media zingers being that, I bested him, I burnt him. It's ego nonsense. All right, so James Clear said, your actions are your real priorities. And that is a great point. You can list all the things you want to do. You can have a huge to-do list and rank everything on that list. This is what I want, this is my goal, this is what I'm going to do, but then what did you actually do? And that was your real priority. That was, if you go through the day, you had a list of XYZ things to do. The things you actually did, those were your priorities. And a lot of the times, if you take a few steps back, you're like, wait, those are my priorities? All that stuff that I did today in this monotonous, boring day? And then you gotta make sure the next day you really do stuff that you want to do. And the things that you do, what you intended your priorities to be. And then at the end of the day, if you did them, then those are your priorities. So again, reading James Clear, he's got a lot of these good things. Your actions are your real priorities. Be in motion, people. Be in motion and see what your priorities are. And if you do nothing all day, then I guess you don't have any priority. If you have no actions, what are your priorities? And that's why people get down. You got to be in motion. And what do we have? I didn't write this up very nicely. Oh yeah, two last things here. Scapegoating. Scapegoating is a coping mechanism for people who think they are helpless, okay? And you're not helpless. First, but there's so many people that get into these situations where they feel like they're helpless. I can't get a job. It's their fault. It's the elite's fault I can't do this. It's the elite's fault I don't have a job. It's XYZ's fault I don't have a job. And they are helpless. They are helpless because they can't take care of themselves. And there are so many people, and there are a lot of big talkers out there too. They're totally helpless because all they're doing with their big talk is they're just blaming other people. They're scapegoating. And if you drill down to it, they're just helpless people. And all they have to realize is, no, you're not really helpless. You can take care of yourself. You're not just floating in space and someone can capture you and lead you on a way and tell you what to do. No, you decide what you're going to do. All right? You are not helpless. And if you've got the attitude that you're not helpless, that you can take care of yourself, you're not going to get into all this nonsense scapegoating stuff and spend all your time blaming the government, blaming the elite, blaming just all this made up stuff. And there's so much of the doom stuff on YouTube also. People eat it up because so many people are helpless. Scapegoating is a coping mechanism. It's just a coping mechanism. So boil down to what your real problem is. You're helpless. Okay? You feel like you can't control your own destiny, but you can control your own destiny. So with all that in mind, there's one last video out there that another guy I like to watch, Henry Abramson. He has videos on Jewish history, and I would send them to my father. I knew about it before my father knew about it, but I loved sending them to my father, and I so wish I could still send them to my father, which is something that anytime I watch those videos, I do think about that. I wish I could say, because my dad was really getting into that stuff at the end there. But the latest Henry Abramson video that is out there is one that is not. It explains what the Talmud is. That's all it does. He's starting a series that explains what the Talmud is. It's very simple. What it is, it's not mysterious. It's law commentary. It is law commentary. That is what it is, and it's tremendous. But it's nothing too out of the. I think it's quite unique, but it's a gigantic compendium of law commentary. But so many the things you hear about it, people blame stuff on the time. Again, these are the scapegoats. These are the people that are helpless. The simple answer is out there. Watch Henry Abramson's video. You'll understand what the Talmud is. It's pretty simple. It's law commentary. But again, it for me, it helps. Maybe it'll wake some people up to like, why was I blaming all my problems on this thing? What I gotta take some personal responsibility here. This is just like some law books. What? Anyway, so check that out. That is linked to below. All right, everybody. That was the Beyond Bitcoin show. We went beyond Bitcoin. Always a lot of fun doing these Saturday shows. I got to call my friend. It was his birthday yesterday. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Of course, I'm calling him over the computer because I don't have a phone. Pound that like button. Bang that bell button. I'm Adam Meister, Disrupt Meister, Bitcoin Meister, all that cool stuff. TECHBALT is me on Twitter. A new show here every day. That is my system. Create your own system, people. Pound that like button. I will say hi to you dudes in the chat.